Good evening, everybody. Sorry about that. I had realized I had not unmuted the mic. I was just about to talk, and I was just like, oh, the mic's still muted. Anyway, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 301st edition of Sunday Night Live. No, I'm not going to keep that going, because I won't be able to keep that going. So, we're not going to, alright? But, when we get to show 400, we will have another celebration, and because celebrations are cool. And we will also have a celebration when we get to the next milestone of subscribers. At the moment, we are 5,230 something subscribers. So we're well on our way to 6,000 subscribers. When we get there, when we get to 6,000 subscribers, we will do another giveaway. That is a promise. I am going to do that. It is going to happen. So if you want to be a part of that and you want to help us get to 6,000 quickly, then please do like, subscribe. If you're not subscribed already, please share as well, and just spread the word about my channel. If there are videos on my channel that you like and that you appreciate and that you have learned from and gained from, then please do share those videos as well. That would be fantastic if you could all help me to do that. That would be awesome. And we'll get to 6,000 subscribers pretty quickly. And we'll do another giveaway of another Personas item. It might be another AudioBox Go, because those are pretty darn cool. And, you know, they're great. You can use them in your studio, and you can also take them out portably with a laptop as well. So, win-win for everybody. So, but yeah, that is my plan. When we get to 6,000 subscribers. So I would like it, please, if you would help me out with that. We have 13 people watching right now. Thank you very much for joining me, all 13 of you. You are awesome. Please do hit that like button. It'd be great. We did it on Wednesday, where we had the same amount of likes for the same amount of viewers. If everybody hits that like button, that helps me a lot as well. That would be very cool if you could do that. Like I said, it helps me out a lot, and it improves my standing, my rating with YouTube, and it's more likely that this show and other shows that I do, like the Songwriting Simplified show, and of course any other videos that I do, will get to the homepage of YouTube, and if that happens, they get recommended, and then we get a whole bunch more people being added to this wonderful community, which means you guys get to meet a lot more brand new people. So please do smash the like button. I would appreciate it a lot. With that said, and that is a phrase I really don't use very much. Welcome everybody. Billy Morgan was first in the door, very quickly followed by Boris Dancy, who is number 2 in the door. And he has the first question. So because he has the first question, I pinned his post to the top. So you will be able to see his question and you won't miss it. And we got John Hawk here. We got Kevin from Kevin's Guitar Stories. We got Stephen Wilson. We got Dwayne. We got Ambient Dave. We got Rock Lens, who I believe is down in New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the show, because I know it's going to be like lunchtime tomorrow for you, which is amazing. I mean, I'm future to the Americans, but you are future to me. You are in tomorrow already, which is amazing. I love the fact that our world is a globe. So if there's any flat earthers in here, I'm sorry. We got Ron Figura and we got Tony Stringer as well. Welcome back, Tony. I'm glad you're back. You were here on the last show as well, so I'm glad you have made a welcome return to watching my shows. Thank you. And who else do we have here? We got Christina, we got Don Oliver, Christina over in Denmark, and we got Just Bob, who is back as well. He says, please hit the like button. It helps my standing on YouTube. Thank you. We got Secret Squirrel. We've got Bobby Booth, and Tony says, remember that Scotland is the capital of the Megaverse. Yes! Absolutely. Tony is absolutely 1000% correct that Scotland, which is where I am, which is where Jonny Lipsham Studios is based, is the capital of the known universe, and probably capital of the not yet known universe and other kind of multiverses and that kind of thing. Yes, I actually did forget to keep that going. So thank you for that. Rock says, just for clarity, it seems I'm known as Rock Lens. Elsewhere, it seems I'm known as Rock Tees. Go figure. Yeah, I don't know why, but you could probably change the name of your YouTube channel. You're allowed to change it, I think, once, and then you can change it again for another 6 months. So you have to use that name for like 6 months, and then you can change the YouTube name again if you want to. I've had Jonny Lipsham Studios now for 12 years on this channel. But yeah, maybe I will change it to something different, just for comedy value, maybe. I don't know. And we got James Cavey here as well. He says, hello, James, welcome, because I think you are new to my show. Welcome, you are awesome, and I'm glad to have you here. This is the show where we talk about Studio One, and I answer your questions about Studio One, recording, mixing, mastering, those kind of subjects. So if you have questions, please type them into the chat. But before you do that, at the start of your question, please type at Jonny Lipsham Studios. That makes my name show up in red in the chat for me, so I can see it. And I can separate it out from the rest of the general chat, and I don't miss your questions that way, or at least I'm less likely to miss your questions. If I see my name in red, I'm more likely to be able to see it and get to your question much more easily. So yes, please do that if you want to ask a question. It makes it a lot easier for me, and therefore I get to answer your question. Now I'm aware that does mean it takes away from the 200 characters that you get to use up in a question. That's okay. If you need to make a follow-up to continue your post, then please just do that, and I will try and track your train of thought as we go. All right, so let's get to the first question of the night. Ambient Dave says, I'm watching the Edinburgh Military Tattoo on TV tomorrow night. Love a bagpipe. Well, yes, I'm less averse to bagpipes. I don't really like them very much because the instrument itself is fundamentally out of tune with itself because it predates equal temperament. So to most people they sound okay, but to me they kind of sound fundamentally out of tune because the high note, they have a range of about a ninth, and the top note is actually sharp and the low note is actually flat. They are about a quarter tone flat and sharp at either end. It's just by design. They're just designed that way, and there are ways in which you can overcome that on the instrument itself, on the chanter, which is the main pipe where you do all the fingering. There is a way to overcome that with basically not covering the entire hole, so you're letting a little bit of the air out the hole. We call it half holing. You do that on recorder as well to kind of bend pitches and things like that. But yeah, so there are ways around it on bagpipes. If you're a very skilled player, then yes, you can make it sound pretty good, pretty in tune. Speaking of which, we just had the World Pipe and Drums Band Championships in Scotland, and a band called the Bog Hole. I forget their full name, but they are based in West Lothian. And anyway, Bog Hole won the World Championships. They are the world champion pipes and drums band, and they were superb. And at least 2 friends of my family are in that band, and they were awesome. And so yes, so I watched the world championships on TV and saw that they'd won. It was great. So congratulations to them. All right, so let's get to Boris's question. Then we're going to get to Stephen's question because he has a question too, which is cool. And I need to click on that post to be able to see the whole thing. Okay, so Boris says, how important is gain staging? I've heard arguments for either side that it's not as important in the digital domain, and -12 to -6 dB for best plugin response. What's your take? Well, I have an interesting perspective on this because my position on gain staging has changed quite a bit over the years. I used to be a very big advocate for it. and I considered gain staging to be an essential part of preparing your mix. What is gain staging? For those of you that are not familiar with the term, you're just like, gain what? Yeah, gain staging. What is gain staging? Gain staging is where you pick a decibel value at which you basically you either increase the gain or decrease the gain of different audio events and different channels in order for all your channels in the mixer to peak at the same value. And that's called gain staging. There are a number of reasons why you might do this. Now, gain staging was born out of necessity in the analog world because you had a noise floor to overcome. So you needed to increase the gain or set the gain to a particular level where the gain of the audio would overcome the noise floor. So analog consoles, analog microphones, analog preamps, analog EQs and compressors, they all have a little bit of noise floor inherent by design. It's just the way analog gear works. And so you want to basically get the signal to noise ratio so that you have as much signal as possible and as little noise as possible when you are printing to tape. So that's kind of where gain staging comes from. So in the analog world, yes, it's important. You need to make sure that the signal going into an EQ or a compressor goes in at a certain level to hit that particular sweet spot for the signal to noise ratio of that particular device. And then you want to do the same going out from the hardware EQ or compressor into the channel on the console. So there are several levels of gain staging. There are several stages of it. It's not just that initial, you set the peaks to one level and then that's it. That's gain staging. No, gain staging is a little bit more complicated than that if you're going to be true to that analog signal flow. And that is, you need to go in to an insert at a particular level, come out of that insert at the same level, going into the next insert, and then coming out of that and then going into the channel in series, right? So if you have an EQ at the start of the signal chain and a compressor followed by a reverb or whatever, in the analog domain, you have to go through those in series and you have to make sure that the gain level going in and out of each unit is the same. So that you are not kind of being fooled by the signal being louder coming out of a compressor than it was going in. That's kind of the first reason why you do it. And the second reason, you want to maintain that gain level going all the way through your signal chain. So in the analog domain, it was really, really essential. Now, we're in the digital domain, in Studio One, where the noise floor is so quiet, it's not really a thing anymore. There is really, in all practical terms, there really is no noise floor. And so the whole idea of gain staging to overcome noise is not really relevant anymore. Now, here is where it might still be an issue in the digital domain. If you are using certain plugins that are emulating either a console or a hardware EQ or a hardware compressor or a hardware reverb or any other piece of analog hardware, and the plugin you are using either emulates it or is modeled specifically using the schematics of those units in the development of the plugin, then you need to treat them as if they are the actual hardware units. So it makes sense to hit the sweet spot of that plugin in the same way that you would the real actual hardware device itself. And so you would do the same with a console. So if you're using a console emulation, like maybe one of the Slate Digital ones, or if you're using the Mix Effects engine, and you have Studio One Professional, therefore you have the Mix Effects engine that you can either purchase or you get with Studio One Plus, like the Brit console and all of the other ones that are there, then again, those replace the default Studio One sound engine. And so you will need to mix as if you are mixing on that actual console. And so you need to treat it in the same way. But you also need to bear in mind that we are in the digital domain and there is no noise floor. So there's that. So you have to balance these two things. Now, if you're not using any console emulations, you're not using third-party plugins that emulate actual hardware devices, and you're only using PreSonus native plugins in Studio One, then really gain staging doesn't apply to you. So what would I do in your situation? If you're not using any of that stuff, and you are only using digital plugins that are transparent and are not emulating any hardware whatsoever, then what I would do is I would do something that is a little bit like gain staging, but it really isn't. I call it setting a platform. So in this instance, I would say pick an arbitrary dB value, and then make sure that the gain of each of your channels on your mixer in the Studio One mixer view kind of peaks around about that same. Don't be kind of, anal and pernickety about it. Just get it in that ballpark of that particular figure so that everything is kind of evenly balanced. And by doing that, you will buy yourself a little bit of headroom for mixing, which is a good thing, because if you do that, then you're not going to be playing the dancing game with the clip light. You're not going to be clipping the main output quite so much, if at all, actually. I mean, I've been doing this whole platforming thing for a while now. I don't really use any console emulations or things like that. I'm not really after trying to get an analog sound inside of Studio One. Some people are, some people aren't. I'm one of those that isn't. So I use this platforming idea. So the more channels you have, let's say you've got, 50 channels, 60 channels, 70 channels, 80 channels in your mixer, then maybe you want to set that value a little bit lower than, than -12. Maybe set it to -18, or something like that. And then that buys you that headroom that I was talking about earlier. So by the time you're starting to add plugins and things to your channels, as you get mixing, which of course is going to increase the gain, because that's just a natural byproduct of adding things like EQs and compressors, the gain is going to go up a little bit. You can keep it in check by, putting a mix tool plugin at the very last, the very last insert of your chain, just so that you can, you can tap it down a little bit and make sure that the gain signal, the gain level of the signal going into your chain and coming out of your chain is the same. You can do that. And you might find that beneficial. I don't do that, but you could do that. And then that means that you've always got a level kind of platform throughout the whole mix. Cool thing about this is you never clip your output. You never clip your main output. I haven't clipped my main output in 6 or 7 years. It's actually a shock to me when it happens. And I go, oh, I clipped. How the hell did that happen? And then I find that there's like a rogue spike in one of the audio events that I just need to go and adjust the gain of. And that's it. The clip is gone. But for the most part, I don't see the clip light go off anymore. And so you want to avoid, when you're mixing, you want to avoid doing that dance with the clip light. Because when you do that, you have to constantly go, okay, I'm going to select all my faders, drop them down by 2 dB, and that clears the clipping. And great, we're fine. But, you might find that, your mix now kind of lacks a little bit of punch and a little bit of energy. Well, that's okay. You can overcome that by, increasing a little bit of your mix bus compression settings if you have a mix bus compressor. If you don't, I would advocate you mix through a mix bus compressor and just adjust the settings so that, you keep everything kind of nice and balanced and even, but you also retain the punch and the power and the impact of your mix. So I hope, Boris, that answers that question for you. So what is to conclude, what is my take? My take is, yes, it's important, but no, it's not that important. It's important if you are mixing in an analog style within the digital domain. You need to treat Studio One as if it's an analog mixing environment. But if you're not, if you're strictly, entirely 100% in the box, not using any console emulations, not using any hardware EQ or compressor emulations, then really it doesn't apply because there is no noise floor. You know, not even a simulated noise floor. So I hope, Boris, that answers that question. That is a great way to start the show. Thank you very much for that really terrific question. Now I'm going to go down because I think I saw that Stephen had a question and I don't want to miss it. Let's see. Stephen says, how do I reattach the mixing console to Studio One? I separate the mixing console after seeing it done on one of the videos. That's very, very easy. And this is something that I can show you inside of Studio One. So let's go over there and do that. All right, here we are in Studio One. Now, you will find that there is at the top, above this little section here, that there is this arrow. And when you hover over it, it says detach. Boink. Now, when I detach it, you'll notice that the mixer has disappeared. That's because it has gone over to my second screen. Here it is. Now, I can make that full screen. So now all you see is the incredibly tall channels, and I have so few channels in this mixer, it looks a bit bare and a little bit let's just say uninspiring, to say the least, because there's not really much going on in here. So you'll now see that the arrow is over here and it's pointing downwards. And when you hover over it, it says attach. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this. I'm going to click on it, boink, and now it's reattached. It's as simple as that. Click on detach to detach. Click on attach to reattach. So I hope that that helps. Little arrow, top right corner. And everybody is being extremely nice to James and giving him a fantastic welcome. So that is very cool. Thank you, folks. Thank you for being such a warm and welcoming community. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you. Alps Media is here. Alps Media sponsors this show, by the way, because Louis is just an all-round awesome, fantastic bloke. I'm scrolling down. Secret Squirrel says, I've only recently learned about MixFX in Studio One. Are there video tutorials which cover the relevant input levels most desirable for different MixFX flavors? I believe that Gregor has done a bunch of videos on the MixFX engine stuff. They were introduced, by the way, quite a long time ago. And it started with the console shaper in Studio One 3.3, I believe it was. And then in Studio One 3.5, we introduced the first paid-for MixFX engine plugin called the CTC1, which, by the way, is a fantastic, awesome little dude. So I'm going to show you what is available. So when you get the whole of what's available for MixFX engine stuff from PreSonus, you first of all get Console Shaper, which is a very simple console emulator using our patented, I think it's patented, state space modeling technique developed by our geniuses over in Hamburg, who basically have modeled all sorts of things, in this case consoles, down to the schematic level, and they basically got down and dirty with a bunch of consoles, and they basically did a unique kind of modeling technique to model them. And so this is the first one, and we basically gave this away for free. It's pretty cool. It does some very simple things. You can increase the drive, you can increase the noise. By the way, that's the noise floor of the particular consoles that these are emulating, and crosstalk between the different channels. Very, very handy, very useful. So I am going to set that back to none, and then I'm going to select the CTC1. And this is the first paid for one. You can purchase this, or if you're a member of Studio One Plus, you have this available to you already. And there are a bunch of presets for this. And it's a little bit more complicated. There are some more features. Like this is character, and then this is master output as well. And check this out. You've got gain compensation for the channel and the bus level, and you've also got this nice little eco button as well, which is pretty cool. So this is definitely worth checking out. And you've got a classic view, you've got a tube, and you've got a custom console, which is basically, this is Presonus's own console. And then there's this tube one. I don't know what this is modeled after. And then there's this classic one, which I think is modeled after a Neve type console. And the cool thing is here is you can increase this value. And you would think increasing this little serial number value here doesn't do anything other than it just changes the number and looks a little bit aesthetically pleasing. Apparently, it actually does do something to the sound. What that does, I don't know, because I don't really use these guys as much as I probably should. All right, so, and then these are part of the Retro Mix Legends package. Again, you can purchase these, or if you're a member of Studio One Plus, you've got all of these. This is a Brett console, kind of SSL style console. And you've got 3 different types. You've got a vintage, you've got a super one, you've got a modern one. I think this is like an SSL 4000 series, kinda. And then this one's maybe the G, and then this one's more like a more, I'm going to say 8000, 9000 J series, I think it is, sort of. And then again, you've got eco, and you've got channel or bus, and you've got character and master. And again, you can mess about with that serial number, and it kind of changes some characteristics of the sound. And then a bunch of presets like an eco 4000, which is, and then you've got a G style console, and it's pretty cool. Then we got this Alpine desk, which is modeled after, I mean, Alpine. If you know your mixing consoles, you'll know what is meant by Alpine. It's a play on words. Same kind of features, except we've got this transformer section, either 3-to-1 or 1-to-1. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we got porta cassette. This is modeled after a 4-track or 8-track tape machine, believe it or not. And it looks very like one that I had way back in 1988. And you can increase and decrease the pitch. This is fun to play with. There we go. So yeah, that's fun to play around with. I'm going to set that to none. There we go. So now it should sound. There we go. Perfectly normal. All right. So yeah, Gregor's done a bunch of tutorials on these. I don't know whether he talked about the input levels, but again, like I said, when I was talking about gain staging, kind of treat them like they are actual consoles. So you want to be hitting them somewhere between -12 and -18, probably. But I don't know the specifics, but that would be my natural assumption, because that's what you do with a real console. Good question, though. James Cavey says, finally got an explanation about gain staging. YouTube engineers make it sound like a nightmare. How simple that was. Yeah, it really is simple. I think, you know what? I think most things mixing are actually simple. You can butter them up. You can use all the jargon and all the terminology and all of that. But fundamentally, mixing is balance. That's all it is. So when we're talking about gain staging, what are we talking about? We're talking about balancing the gain. That's it. That's all we're talking about. Balancing the gain. Balancing the gain going into one hardware device and coming out of that hardware device and going into another. That's it. So if it's -18 to go in, it's got to come out at -18 and then go into the next one at -18, come out of that one at -18. That's it. That's all it is. It's really not much more complicated than that. And I know that there are people that they like to sound very, very important, and they like to sound incredibly knowledgeable, and they like to sound like they have an awful lot of credentials and experience. And you know what? They may well have incredible amounts of experience. They may have Grammy Award winning records to their name. And, you know, there are folks out there in YouTube land that do. They do have a lot of credentials. But there's also a whole bunch of people on YouTube that don't. They don't have any qualifications for anything that they're talking about. Now, do I have Grammy Award winning records to my name? No, I don't. Have I played on hit records? Yes, I have. I have played on a gold certified gold record on at least a few occasions. But as a mixing engineer, do I have Grammy Awards? Do I have, you know, platinum records up on the wall? No, I don't. However, I did go to university and I did study audio to degree level. So yeah, I kind of have some qualification. I also hold a qualification, a postgraduate qualification in music education. So I have taught students to undergrad and postgraduate level. So yeah, I kind of know what I'm talking about. But do I have, like, you know, records to my name? And am I famous? No. But I kind of do know what I'm talking about. You know, some from experience and some from study as well. So maybe, you know, I haven't done some incredible things. I haven't worked with incredibly high-end artists. I've worked with some as a session musician, but I haven't really worked with high-end artists as a mixing engineer. But yeah, you know, there are folks out there that they are bedroom producers and they set themselves up on YouTube as experts, and they're really not. And so a lot of what you see and what you hear on YouTube, you can take with a pinch of salt, because they mostly don't know what they're talking about. And if they do, you would be well advised to kind of study these things for yourself, so that you make sure that you are getting good information. Even if what you see on the YouTube video is good, go read and study it for yourself as well, so that you can ratify that information for yourself and verify it for yourself. But yeah, good point. And I'm going to get off my high horse about education, because I'm very passionate about it. Let's see. Rock says, I was recently asked how to fade in or fade out a single MIDI note in the editor. I answered with automation as a possible way. Are there other ways? Now, here's the thing that you need to bear in mind about MIDI. MIDI is just data. That's all it is. So there really is, from the MIDI instrument level, not much you can do to fade anything, either fading it in or fading it out, because it's not audio, it's just data. It's just note on, how hard to play the note, where that note is on the keyboard, or in the, you know, in the range of MIDI spectrum, which is, you know, I think it's C0 to C8. So there's 8 octaves. And then, so which note, when to turn the note on, how long to keep it on for, when to turn it off, and how hard the velocity should be for that note. That's it. Oh, and program change data, those kind of things. And maybe some modulation, or maybe some pitch bend, you know, those kind of control data. That's all data that tells a musical digital instrument how to generate the sound. That's all it does. So you can't really fade a note in. There are some instruments where you have a volume control on that is mapped to the modulation wheel of your instrument. That definitely does exist. And in that case, yes, you can fade an instrument in and out using that. But that's not universal. Some instruments don't. For example, the instrument we have here, if I close the mixer for a second, this flugelhorn here we get some pitch bend, we get some increased vibrato from the mod wheel. But we don't get to fade the notes in. But there are some other instruments where you would get that. So I guess we could go and make a new song, and I could bring in a few instruments that do this. Hang on just for 1 second. I got somebody messaging me who's trying to get into the show. All right, so let me go grab some instruments here. So let me go grab presence. And if I go and grab something like the PSO contemporary strings, for example, if I grab this big string section, by the way, the Persona Symphony Orchestra is an add-on for presence. Oh my God. Okay. 1 second, please, folks. Sorry about this. There we go. Sorry about that. Actually, you should not have seen that. Where was I? Oh yeah, Studio One. All right. So with this instrument here, we've got key switches. I put this on sustain 1, or where is it? There we go. Using the mod wheel, I can control that fade in and fade out. Okay, but in general terms, MIDI CC7, I think it is, and I think CC11 are to do with volume and expression. You can automate those, you can map those to a controller, maybe your mod wheel. My mod wheel is like very nearly broken, so I have to be careful with it. 30 like something year old keyboard, that. So if you are able to map those expression values for CC7 and CC11 to a knob or modulation wheel or something like that, then yes, you can fade in, you can fade out, you can control volume, you can control expression and things like that. But other than that, that's about all you could do from that point of view. Boris says, I'm using a Porter Studio 424 with Studio One for some lo-fi stuff as we speak. Yes, those Porter Studios are great for doing lo-fi kind of stuff. Let's see. Could you show that mod wheel in the editor, please? Well, you have to set it up as an automation lane. So let me see, where would it appear? There's velocity, there's note controller, pitch bend, aftertouch. So you can adjust these, but you can also hit this little button here, and you can go and you can add or remove parameters. Right here we've got modulation, so I could add that. I think that's already there though. So if I was to record some notes and play with this mod wheel, you'll see it. So let's try that. And then if I go, and at the moment we're viewing just velocity, but now if I go and click on modulation, you can now see the modulation that I've just played in there. If you don't have like a modulation wheel on your keyboard, or you don't have a particular way in which to do this live whilst you're playing, and you need to do this after the fact, you can totally just go and draw this in. You can totally just draw this in with a pencil tool and, you know, do something like that. Or you could do something, you know, with the sine wave tool, for example. I think you can do this. Yes, you can. And that's going to sound fecking weird, but this might be an effect you want to go for. Or not, as the case may be. In this case, it's just gone and zeroed everything out. Let's... There we go. All right, so I hope that answers that question. Hey, Rich, good to see you. Glad you were able to make it into the show. But yeah, Rich, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way, you'll always get a notification in YouTube about the show. So make sure you do that. There you go. Rock says, fantastic. That is exactly what I was looking for. There you go. Yeah, so you can automate this. If you don't have a mod wheel, you can totally just draw this in however you want to after the fact. And you can do that right here. And, you know, if you don't see the modulation listing here, then you can click on this 3-dot icon here, and you can go through and you can go find it. It might be in, you know, one of these folders, or like, you know, for example, if you have like an Akai Iwi, for example, I have one, but it's so old it won't work with Studio One. Then I might want to map breath and expression control, and so I can do that by basically just adding that to the list here, and then you'd see it over here. So let's go and remove that. Yes. All right, so there we go. I hope that answers that question. Good question, though. Where are we for time? We've got 15 minutes left, guys. So if you still got questions, please do get them in the chat. That would be very, very cool if you could. We got 25 people here, and we have 24 likes. You guys are freaking awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the likes. That is tremendously helpful. In fact, right now we have 27 people. It's just gone up by 2. So thank you, everybody. The reason why I say 27 is because that's a really cool number. Now, the record highest attendance for Sunday Night Live still stands at 36. I would love to go past 36. I would love to smash that record to smithereens. I would like to get to 40, and then I would like to regularly have 40 to 50 people in this show every week. That is goal number 1, and then goal number 2 is to have 100 people every week. And then goal number 3 would be to have 150. Goal number 4 would be to have 200 people watching every week. So Those are kind of my goals for Sunday Night Live and for Songwriting Simplified, to grow them. You guys have helped me a lot to get to where we are now, where we regularly get to like 25, 26, 27 people every Sunday. It would be awesome if we could bust our record and set new records and grow into, 200, 250, 300 people watching. That would be awesome. So please do keep doing what you're doing. Like the show, subscribe, share the show with people you think would appreciate what we do here and would want to ask questions. So if you are a member of a Studio One Facebook group somewhere, please do share the show there as well. Share it on Studio One Plus in the community as well. That would help a lot as well, so that we get people from over there into this show. I know some people who have done that. They've come to this show via links in Studio One Plus. So that would be great if you could do that. Rich says, is there an easy way to reset the universal control or reinstall it on a Mac? Now, I know what you're trying to do, Rich. What you're trying to do is you're trying to revert from version 4 to a lower version, like version 3.6, which is the previous build of version 3 of Universal Control. You can do that from the Presonus website. And I'm going to go and open the website. And we're going to figure this out together. So you have the Studio Series interface. Now, the problem you might have here, from what you and I have talked about previously, Rich, is you have the silver Studio Series mixer. You don't have this black one. The silver ones are sadly discontinued. However, you should be able to still get an older version of Universal Control. And I just have to remember how you do it, because there is a way to do it. Now, if you go to downloads, this is just going to download the current build of Universal Control. That's not what you want. You want a previous, and I'm just trying to remember how we do that. If I click on driver downloads at the bottom here, this opens this legacy page. And then I can go and I can find Mac downloads. Let's see. Where are older versions? Because this is 4.1 that we don't want. What I want is the previous build. How do I get to the previous build? I can't remember. Show hide. All right, so I'm on Windows, so it's not going to show me the Mac downloads, but you might have a link here that says show hide all versions of software downloads for Mac OS. So you select your Mac OS build, whatever that is, from this drop down here, and then you will see previous builds of Universal Control. So the last build of Universal Control before 4.0 was 3.6.4. This is probably what you want to download, Rich. Yeah, you have the 1824. Exactly. You do not have the 1824C. You have the silver 1824. That product is discontinued, but if you go to the black one here, which is the 1824C, and you select this show hide to show all versions of software downloads for Mac OS and your particular Mac OS, then you can download an older version of Universal Control. So the one I'm running, I'm not running 4.0 or 4.1. I'm running this one here, 3.6.4 on my 1824C. There are reasons for that, which I'm not going to go into here. But if you download this previous build, you will get the old version of Universal Control, and you'll see the mixer for the 1824 as you have always been able to see it before. It will be exactly where you expect it to be, or where you're used to seeing it. Alps Media says, I believe you have to go into your PreSonus account now. No, you can get previous builds of Universal Control from this very page that I'm showing you here. All right. So you basically go to driver downloads. Click on this link here at the bottom of PreSonus.com. And then click on your device. And then click on Show Hide all versions of software downloads for Mac OS or Windows, whatever the case may be. And then you can go and get all of these older versions of Universal Control. Before you do that, uninstall what you have currently, which is 4.1.0. So this is the one you have at the moment, Rich. Go uninstall this from your computer. Okay, so find Universal Control in your applications on your computer and uninstall it. Once you've done that, come to this page, download 3.6.4. Install that. You'll need to restart your computer. Once you've restarted your computer, then this should work just perfectly for you. Yes, there is no search on my PreSonus, a different PreSonus account. No, this is PreSonus.com. I'll show you for one more time. All right. Select the device. Now, as I said, you have a discontinued product. That is your problem. You have a discontinued product that is no longer supported by PreSonus. So I'm giving you a help here. So you need to go to the 1824C, which is the black one. Don't worry about that. That's not important. Go down to the bottom of the page, all the way down. Click on driver downloads. That will take you to this page. All right, for the Universal Control for the 1824C. Click on this link here. This will open all the previous builds of Universal Control going all the way back to March 22nd, 2021 and version 3.4.2. You can get this. Download it, install it, run it, and you'll be good to go from there. Quantum 4848 is nowhere to be found. It looks like whoever has one, do not let it go. I wonder if PreSonus is coming with one and an updated fader port. Any ideas? I cannot speak to future developments of any hardware or software products. Okay, so questions like, is there going to be X new product? I can't answer that question, and I'm not going to answer that question. All I'm going to say is, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? It might be. You might get lucky. There might be a future replacement for the 4848. There might be a bigger fader port at some point in the future. I don't know. It's not that I'm saying I don't know. I actually don't know. And even when I do know, I can't talk about it because I'm under a non-disclosure agreement. So I can't. So I hope you folks understand that. Can you show the click faders on main folder? Yes, I can do that. Rock says, just like to thank you for your video on the quarter and note effects. You're welcome. Not sure how to uninstall on this Mac. The same way you uninstall for any Mac. You know, you go to applications. You should know where applications are installed on a Mac. So go to applications on the Mac, find Universal Control, dump it in the trash. You have a trash bin on the Mac. It's actually much easier to uninstall things on a Mac than it is on a PC. On a PC, you have to find it, and then you have to click uninstall. Then it starts operating the uninstaller. But on a Mac, you don't even have to do that. You just locate it in applications, in Finder, dump it in the trash. It's gone, uninstalled. So that's how you do that. Yep, and that's it. Okay, so click. Where is the click? Where is the click? That's what you want to know. All right, so let's go and open the mixer. Close that, close that. So if you're looking for the click, there's the metronome icon there. Here's the metronome set up here. I have click and play. Let's say I want to pre-count. Then I click on pre-count and I set this up, and then let's just mute that for a second. Now you can hear the click. Now, if you want to turn up the volume on the main fader, next to the metronome icon, there's this little thing that looks like a hi-hat from a drum set. If you hover over it, it says click volume. If you click and hold, you can turn this up. You can keep going until it's absurdly loud like this. And now it's so loud it is clipping OBS. So I'm going to turn that down. Yeah, it's still pretty loud. Right, so you can hear the click is actually extremely loud. That's probably better for you guys. All right, so you Stephen, you said that you had lost the mixer. Not the mixer. You had lost the metronome. Do you mean you had lost the volume and you don't know how to get it back? I have click and play selected, still no sound. So if you have click and play selected, like I have here, and you've got all of these set, make sure the accent is turned up quite a bit, and then beat, and then if you want an offbeat, you can turn that up as well. And then make sure you've got this volume control turned up here. I've got it set quite low just now. So that it's not clipping OBS. But that's where you turn up and turn down the click volume. Okay? I hope that helps. Let's see. Right, this is the last question because it is now 1 a.m. And we've reached the hour mark. Do you sometimes use mono buses? No. No, I don't use mono buses. I always use stereo buses, and the reason being is because whilst I might have, let's say I have a bunch of guitars. I have 5 or 6 guitars, let's say, and they're all rhythm guitars, all playing slightly different things. And yes, I have actually had songs where I've had 6 rhythm guitar parts. What I will do is I will bus them to a stereo bus, and the stereo bus will respect the panning of those guitars. And also I can apply stereo effects. So if I want, like, for example, I want some panning effects for all of these guitars, then I can put X-Trem on my stereo bus and I can have all of them panning with X-Trem or tremoloing or whatever I want to do. So having a stereo bus means you can use stereo effects. You might want to like a ping pong delay for your rhythm guitars. Again, you can put that on your bus channel, and away you go. You've got stereo delay or stereo reverb for all of your backing vocals or whatever. So no, I don't use mono buses. I don't see a need to or a reason to. All right, so we will call it at that point. I hope you have found this show helpful and useful. Brett Mahler says, I prefer to have mine on the listen bus to avoid clipping. Well, you can just turn it down if it's clipping your main output. Rock says, more power to you. Thank you for your time and effort in helping map this awesome door and your musical expertise. You're welcome. Keith Salisbury says, thank you. Keith, you're welcome. I like it when people say thank you. That's awesome. If you like, at the end of the show, folks, you can smash the little heart button that is on the chat, just because it's fun to do it. You know, if you like what I'm doing, just smack that. If you want to celebrate, or if you want to totally agree with me, you can smash the 100% one. James says, what is the schedule for the show? I do 2 shows every week. I do Sunday Night Live, which is this one, and this show is at 6 p.m. Central Time in the US, 6 p.m. Central Time, which is 12 midnight, 1 a.m. Central European Time. Wherever you are in the world, you can use dateandtime.com to figure out what your time zone is comparatively to where I am here in Scotland. It's midnight until 1 a.m. here. So that'd be 6 until 7 Central Time. That'll be 5 till 6 Eastern. And again, you just keep going west and add an hour as you go further west. Yeah, so that's kind of how it works. So that's on a Sunday night. Wednesday night is Songwriting Simplified. It's a different show. There we talk about songwriting, composing, arranging, and music theory. That's kind of that show. So it's not it, albeit everything is done in Studio One. It's not really Studio One technical kind of questions orientated show. It's more about the process of songwriting, from lyrics to chords to melody writing, different compositional techniques. We talk about music theory. We talk about literary styles and literary techniques such as rhyming, assonance, internal rhyming, those kind of things, to help you with your songwriting. And that's on Wednesdays at the same time, 6 p.m. Central Time. So if you want to get yourself along to that, then you are exceptionally welcome to do so. Tony says, so the bagpipes were out of tune on Mullock and Tired. They most certainly were. There you go. Brett says 5 to 6 Mountain Time, 7 to 7. Wow, that's impossible. 7 to 8 Eastern, I think is what you mean. All right, folks. So there we go. I hope you have found this useful and helpful. And I don't know whether there will be an after show or not. I don't know if Mike is going to launch one or not. If he does, you will see it in the chat as we play the closing credits music. But otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me, for smashing the like button and hitting the hearts and all of that stuff. That's great as well. And I'll see you then, folks. Good night. No, that's not my end credits music. This is.